What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arza Chats here, coming at you with another video, and this time we're talking about the game that's just the gift that keeps on giving. That's right, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. They've announced the arrival of Season 3, which will start on October 1st, and features one of the most ridiculous looking characters we've seen to date, making Mrs. Non-Binary Freeze look even less ridiculous, with the character Lawless, who's supposed to be Zoe Lon, Deadshot's daughter. And this is coming from the gamer Suicide Squad fans hate Season 3's character, written by John Flores Jr. And the amazing thing about this article is there isn't a mention of the word racist, sexist, chuds, losers, or incel, and none of any of those other buzzwords. It's all actually relatively honest. Now, for those of you who may not know or were lucky enough to purge it from your memory, this is what Mrs. Freeze looked like when she was introduced into Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League in full atrocious lesbian fashion. And then, of course, everyone's favorite gay Joker. Now, the one nice thing to come from Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is it's giving Blacklist Universe more things to work on, as he is redrawing all the Suicide Squad characters since he was the artist behind Injustice. I'd recommend checking out his videos. I'll pin one of them down below. The article kicks off. Now, Season 3 will introduce Lawless, aka Zoe Lon, the daughter of Deadshot, along with presumably more story-based content. And then they reference a quote that someone had said. They leave the gamer anonymous. The length this game will go to disappoint in new, unexpected ways. Incredible. And I'm being entirely honest. Look at this design. This might very well be one of the worst recent modern design characters I've ever seen. Her face is ugly. She's got the frizzy hair. She looks dumpy and her body is hidden by trashy clothes. She's got the goofiest goggles. This is the definition of the modern character. She looks exactly like all the other characters we've been getting recently that are just absolutely atrocious. The ones, of course, dominated by DEI, ESG initiatives, and the ones that are made predominantly to push an agenda instead of actually good storytelling. And the gamer does some journalism. It could have been anyone else, and this is true. One of the things that Yellow Flash did when he reviewed this is he went through a list of all other characters you could pick just by going through the Suicide Squad Wikipedia page. Because it could have been anyone else. The Suicide Squad is one of the largest teams in superhero history because anyone could realistically become a member as long as they have a reason to be kidnapped by Amanda Waller. And I have a personal vote who I think should be the next DLC character who should replace Lawless, and this guy would be the greatest character. His only flaw is that he's a white man, but he realistically should be in the game because I think he would fit in perfectly. And that is, of course, none other than the world's greatest character, Snowflame. Now, for the uninitiated, Snowflame is a pyromancer whose sole ability comes in the fact that he's able to summon and utilize fire only when he's high on cocaine. As you can see in this small comics panel, Snork, he is actively snorting a large portion of cocaine, giving him the ability to burst into fire, as he says, "Now I am the true god." I mean, look at how badass of a character this guy is. He is entirely insane. He has the ability of fire, and he's got all the snow anyone could want. He has enough cocaine to make a 1940s hooker blush. And of course, the best part about Snowflame is in every single appearance he's had, he has overdosed and died on cocaine just to get a better fire. If they put Snowflame into the game, I don't care. I'm dropping $70 on the game. I'm buying the game. I'm getting Snowflame, and I'll play that bitch. I'm gonna play Snowflame all day. If they just add this one character, they have my money. But no, instead we get Lawless. And this person mentions they could have picked Black Manta, Bane, Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Killer Croc, Killer Frost, Black Adam, etc. But this is what they gave us. And the Killer Frost one especially peeved me, because Killer Frost would actually fit this game pretty well, but instead they chose Mrs. Freeze. As it says down here, honestly, the biggest flaw was giving us Mrs. Freeze and her instead of actual characters who have once or would fit into a Suicide Squad team. I have nothing against Lawless or Mrs. Freeze as a character in this game, and that's where you're mistaken. I do. You should, because the characters are dumb, they look stupid, they look dumpy, and they look uninspired, and they play just as badly. The only piece of good news is that Deathstroke has been leaked to be the game's Season 4 character, but that won't be coming to 2025, and that's going to be the end of the Year 1 roadmap, and I fully believe that after they release Deadshot, it's no more. They're canceling the game. They'll probably try to keep the servers up for a little while, kind of like what Marvel's Avengers does, where the servers are still open, but the game is no longer available for sale, and there's no guarantee that the servers will stay open very long. And of course, the reason I say that is, as this down here, we are not yet discussing anything that is not announced. So I have a feeling they're not announcing anything. That's why there's nothing to discuss, because there's nothing to be discussed. And one user chimed, they could have pulled the rug like Concord, but they're still releasing the roadmap. I have a lot of respect for that. I don't. Because every single thing they put out is just more brand damage. Every single thing they put out about this game just hurts the game and the brand of DC as a whole more. Because you're putting more of these terrible ideas into the game, and you're really causing a significant amount of issues in regards to the game. If they had just canceled it, it would have been a much better move on the zeitgeist. The only reason people don't want them to cancel the game is because it would be, just as they said about Ubisoft, an incel victory. And they can't do that. They can't risk saving some money but losing to the chuds. And that brings me over to this alternate coverage from that Park Place. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League introduces race-swap version of Zoe Lawton for Season 3. And I'm really glad that they go into mention that she was race-swapped, because it led me to look at what she looked like in the comic books. Now, there have been several different versions of Zoe Lawton, some of them going a bit further back, some newer ones. The interesting thing is that there are multiple different race versions of her. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a race swap entirely, as we have white, maybe Latina. There was an Asian one I saw. This one looks kind of black. So she's been a whole different mix. But one thing I find very funny is both in this version, where she's white, and this version where she's mixed, she has red hair, which is just another indication of them race swapping a redheaded character to a black character. It's the ginger side continues. And of course, this all goes into the funny nature of the race swapped Floyd Lawton in Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Because as we know from the previous games, especially Arkham Origins, Floyd Lawton was already in Batman, and he was a white man, and he had a daughter named Zoe Lawton. So we have two Floyd Lawtons who are both Deadshot, who are both from the same universe. One's white, one's black, and both of them have a daughter named Zoe Lawton, but only one of them becomes a criminal. What you trying to say there, Warner Bros? Huh? Just pointing out the facts we're given. And what's even better is the description from the Scooper Miller Ross, the information that is going to be in her profile for Zoe Lawton. And if you recall me mentioning that I thought she looked incredibly familiar, I figured out why she looks so familiar. She looks almost identical to Kim Belair. For those who don't remember, Kim Belair is the owner of Sweet Baby Inc. She has the exact same hairstyle, the exact same face shape, and of course, I'm sure she would wear the same kind of goofy goggles. But back to the bio. What they have to say about her is absolutely unshocking to anyone. To a certain crowd, she's a hero. Her adoring fan base never misses one of her live streams. So of course, she's an anti-establishment, anti-hero who is a content creator, because that's the most creative thing they can come up with. But she's made too many powerful enemies to go public. Like, who? And then, of course, her weaponry are trusty gravity warping gauntlets. I'm really interested to know where they explain that she gets these gravity warping gauntlets from. My money's on she invented them. Because, of course, let's just have another character just like that who's the greatest at everything when they look exactly like that, if I can remind you of Riri Williams. And then the quote continues with just a spit on the grave of what came before. Like the mysterious Arkham Knight before her, Zoe suiting up as Lawless is an original machination of the team at Rock City, and I expect she'll similarly wind up in the other corners of the DC canon before long. Now, the thing about the Arkham Knight is that he wasn't really supposed to be a brand new character, and he isn't a brand new character. The Arkham Knight is just a different name for Jason Todd, so that people didn't immediately know he was Red Hood. Now, of course, most people figured out that he was supposed to be Red Hood anyway, but it was a hidden little thing so that people didn't immediately know the name Red Hood. Any maybe people who just know the name Red Hood or know the name Jason Todd would be thrown off just a little bit. He wasn't a derivative, and he was not a repurposed character, unlike Zoe Lawton. He was an original character who was just given a brand new name to hide his identity. But of course, Zoe is just a derivative, using guns like her father, who just looks like her father, but is a woman, who just does every single thing that her father does, with a little bit of a twist, just to make her better than her father. Because that's how derivatives are made. It's no different than Miles Morales, who is not Spider-Man, who has all of Spider-Man's powers plus electricity. Now, of course, it is impossible to talk about Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League without first talking about the fact that we know for a fact this game costs at least $200 million, as per a Warner Bros. Investment call. What we don't know is how much they spent on R&D for the current seasons, and how much they have spent to keep the servers running, given the sheer lack of return, as those we don't know how much they expected to make on microtransactions versus how much they actually did make on microtransactions. And of course, that brings up the most important question: how many people are currently playing Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League? If you guessed 234, you were correct. This game has had a consistent 234-ish peak, between 200 and 234, for over a week. Going back a month, they had a small peak here, Sunday, September 22nd, and the reason for that was during the Penguin launch sale, where every single Batman title was on a massive discount. Well, how much was Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League during this discount? $14. I almost bought it just because it was so cheap, but I'm sure it's going to go down to, I don't know, $3 when they do the exact same thing they did with the Avengers game. because they're definitely going to have to do that. But $14 for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and they couldn't do any better than a peak of 503 concurrent players. Now, it is a little interesting that this game has a consistent 100 to 200 players. I almost have to wonder if those are devs who are playing the game and testing things out and getting the game ready for new releases, or just padding the numbers. Because the fact that it's so consistent in the player count, it never goes below 100 players at a time. Okay, it goes below 100 players one time that I can see. You really have to wonder if this is nothing more than developer interference, making sure that the game looks like it's played a little bit. But I thought it would be fun to compare it to the other games that were on sale during this time period, the Lego Batman games, and see just how those are doing. Well, how does Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League pair up to the Lego Batman games? It is doing worse than all but one of them. It is doing only better than Lego Batman 2. It is doing worse than Lego Batman 1, Lego Batman 3, and Lego DC Supervillains, all of which were on sale. To get all of these games together and all their DLC, if I remember correctly, it was $30 because I bought Lego Batman 1, 2, and 3 with all the DLC. And I'll get Lego DC Supervillains later just because they're fun to have and they were cheap. So I got them. And so I was one of these people in the last 24 hours for the 302 player peak. The fact that 3 out of these 4 of these games, which are old as hell, which are for the lowest common denominator players, for little kids, they aren't voiced, and most Lego games do not run properly on a desktop. You need to set up a custom aspect ratio for the game to properly run most of the time. The fact that with all those problems, it's still beating Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is absolutely hilarious to me. But one thing I noticed on this Gamer article was this another article they were pinning from the Gamer. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League could have been Marvel Rivals. And I just thought I would read through this. It's an older article from August 10th, but it's just a dumb article. All they're saying is that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League could have been a really good game if it was a 6v6 hero shooter where you played as heroes versus villains instead of playing the 4 Suicide Squad members. So what they're saying is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League could have been a good game if it was a completely different game. How do these people get paid to write these articles? I have no idea. If it's that easy to be a journalist, then why aren't there any competent ones other than John F. Trent and the few people over at Bounding Into the Comics? So I did it. I managed to get a chance to talk about Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. I didn't think I'd ever get the chance to talk about the game until they canceled it because I missed the window of the game. But I thought it'd just be fun. And this character looks terrible. The game has always looked horrible with all the different changes. The fact that they made all of the heroes absolute terrible people. Jon Stewart wearing his own branded underwear. The Flash being a high school bully. Superman being a gobber. And Batman just getting executed on a park bench. This is one of the most disrespectful, disingenuous, and dishonest games that has ever come out. And this is one of the few games that I truly hope actually failed to the full extent that a game can fail. It's an absolute disgrace and an absolutely disgusting game, and it deserves every bit of criticism that it gets, and more. But honestly, I'm not surprised at all that they went with another randomly diverse bullshit character derivative that doesn't actually exist in the comics as anything viable, and it's just another way for them to self-insert one of the developers into the game. And don't get me wrong, she does look better than Mrs. Freeze, but that's not much of a high bar. But that's pretty much all I've got for this one. I cannot wait for this game to be canceled. Let me know if you've actually bought Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. If it's any fun, if you're at all excited for Lawless to come out and see how exactly they're going to differentiate her from the other 4 identical characters. And thanks for coming along with me and just laughing at this absolute dumpster fire of a game.